Hi, I'm Tanya Daca of TanyaDaca.com, and I am talking with Chris Brogan of ChrisBrogan.com this afternoon. And Chris, thank you so much for your very valuable time today.
So happy to be here. So glad to talk with you.
It's nice to finally put you up on my screen. I said I wanted to get the fangirl stuff out of the way first, and I totally didn't do that. So because we have a problem with Google Hangouts, and that's what happens when you have big people online. Um, I wanted to talk to you first about the impact equation, but then you threw a monkey wrench in my plan by announcing the 2013 three-book deal.
Oh yeah, the 3 book diet. Yeah, that'll be fun to
A
talk
diet,
about.
three-book diet. I'm sorry. And I was like so excited. I was like, yeah, that's a really cool way to put the impact equation into play and to do this and really get the freelancers on board. But the problem is you made me like want to learn when you said I couldn't read anything else. Now, why should anybody just like choose 3 books and not anything else?
Because I'll tell you that more often than not, people don't actually implement anything from books. They read the book, they go, num, 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 and then they run on to the next one. And I know this from a great deal of experience because I have searches up on my books. And so, like, if someone mentions them on Twitter, I'll notice it. And so, for example, I will see more often than not, just finished Trust Agents, now running on to read Crush It or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
no matter what it is, there's always somebody just rushing from this book to that book. And so my opinion and my thought on this idea of a 3 book diet is that we do not become disciples of anything. We do not like actually get in and do some work. So it's not on, the behalf of impact equation. It doesn't tie to that. It's just tied to the idea that, you know, if you go to the effort of bothering to read a book, you might as well try to do something to implement some of what you learned there, if you feel the information was worth it. So that's kind of how that all came about. And we picked 3 books. We run from November 1, 2012 to November 1, 2013, and just sort of see how that comes. But 3 books for any book lover is like a misery to say, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the pleasure of it, is to see what are you going to do with that info.
Well, there's a lot, and I know you said you didn't want to be jerky and tell everybody they had to read Impact Equation. I'm telling everybody they have to read Impact Equation if you're not. But I mean, there is a load of worksheets in here. There's a load of implementation tools in the Impact Equation, and entrepreneurs really couldn't pass this up. So, I mean, maybe 3 books might be scary for for everybody, but I think the Impact Equation is definitely one to put on that list for that purpose, not to run on to the next one. But I wanted to ask you, which is the hardest part of the impact equation? Because we have contrast and reach, exposure, articulation, and trust and echo. Which one was the hardest for Chris Brogan?
Oh, I mean, what a good question. I thought you were asking it a different way, with like what's hardest for everybody. And I'd say trust is probably the hardest one for people to demonstrate. I mean, every time we went to write a piece of this book and we'd have to say, measure someone against the equation, it was really hard to come up with a way to better understand whether or not they were trustworthy, because the only time you really see that is, in a horrible service outage or something like that. What's the hardest one for me? I would say that the thing I'm working on the most is reach, which, I mean, if you look at my stats on something like Twitter or Google Plus or something, you go, wow, he's got lots of people. And, there are a lot of people come to my blog, but, who I want to reach is I want to reach people who don't know that they should have me in their menu. I want to reach people who have no idea that what I'm talking about has nothing to do with Twitter and that it's just business design. And, so reach is kind of my hardest one, I suppose.
Hmm. And I totally wouldn't have thought that, just because, like you said, with 200,000 followers on Twitter, and we're struggling with 2,000 followers, is that's not a small reach by any means what you have. So, and you're a Batman lover, not lover that, but I wanted to know how Batman and Superman compare when it comes to the impact equation. Which one of them does it better?
So I got to tell you, I never read anybody's interview questions ahead of time. So as you're saying this, I'm like, man, I really should have read Tanya's interview
No,
questions.
actually, it would have done you no good because I threw them all out the window
Oh,
yesterday.
good. Thank goodness. Because I'm just like, wow, this is like tricky stuff. How do they compare the impact? So contrast wise, I mean, Superman is, an alien from outer space. So he's got pretty good contrast. Does he have reach? He can circle the planet like in the amount of time it takes us to eat a Lunchable. Does he have exposure? Sure, because he's a big target. Articulation, he probably falls down a little bit in articulation because people don't understand that he's just sort of this lonely guy from another planet that really just wants to fit in, and it doesn't work that well for him. He's probably very trustworthy. And Echo, nobody can see themselves in Superman. Like I always have this argument with Superman fans. I'm always just like, you can't like Superman. You have nothing in common with this guy. You know?
That's true. That's true.
So let me just go back to Batman. Batman is, he's not really contrasty because he doesn't want to be. He wants to be sort of this like scary thing that sneaks up on bad guys. So he actually looks like the bad guys. He's got smaller reach because he can only go as far as his money can take him. And he just kind of hangs out in one city, whereas Superman goes and messes up all over the place. Exposure, no, he tries to hide. So he tries to have low exposure. His articulation's pretty clear. Don't do bad things or I'll punch you in the mouth. No one would trust Batman. That would be a bad thing. That's why the cops are always chasing him. And Echo, it's at least, I mean, for me as a Batman fan, at least you could say to yourself, well, Superman's from space. I'll never be from space. So maybe I could be a billionaire playboy, multi-martial arts disciplinarian, high-end detective. Could happen.
Good. So Batman pretty much fails the impact equation test then. But is that sort of does that sort of echo what could happen with entrepreneurs? I mean, could people just ignore the whole impact equation and still be successful like Batman is?
So there's a definition of success kind of a thing. The people who come to me and ask about, these kinds of problems that they're having in their business, what they tend to really be saying is, I've got this great product, but no one cares. Or I spent all this money buying Twitter followers or Facebook likes and the register didn't ring. And well then, so the other way we broke up the impact equation is into 4 sections. You need great goals, you need amazing ideas, you need to have a platform to put them across, and you need a network of value. Where everyone fails is the network of value because they're too me, they're too self-involved, and everyone fails on the network of value. So, I mean, the book is spread across contrast, reach, all that sort of a thing. But if you really want to pay attention to what you need more than anything else, where everyone falls down is trying to build some kind of a community that cares about them. And the tools of the impact equation are what get you to a point where somebody would actually bother wanting to care about you. And then you just have to do the work to bring it home.
Well, it sounds so easy until you look at the impact equation and you see what you have to do to get it done. And I know that you've got a course coming out next year for the impact equation, right?
I do. It's called Impact Next. And what I'm going to do there is just, a lot of people get a book like this. I mean, very similar to the 3-book diet conversation. They get a book like this and they kind of go down the road a little ways, or maybe they'll see me speak and they'll say, wow, that was really great. And I give some actionable takeaways. And then like everything that always happens in our lives, it's great, but then a kid at home gets sick or something like that, you totally fall off the wagon immediately. And so to give you a sort of a course-based environment with some accountability, some sort of recurring touches over multiple weeks, will give you an opportunity to do some more stuff with impact. And it's not the real goal behind it was how do you get actually even more out of the experience of either seeing me live or reading the book? And this is what I came up with.
It's definitely a good plan. When you said, what would you do with $1 million on Twitter? And I was like, get you to teach me how to do the impact equation. You said, stay tuned. I was like, oh, I knew it was coming, and it was really exciting. And you have a lot of stuff coming in 2013, not just Impact Next, but you have already started putting your goals together, which is something that I think all entrepreneurs should do about this time of the year anyway, whether they're freelancers or business or whatever. How do you structure your plan? I mean, do you just sit down and say, well, this didn't work this year, so I'm going to try this next year? I mean, how do you sit down and get ready for next year?
So I promise I'm not just pitching something, but I'm giving a sort of free webinar about how to do visioning and goal setting and all that sort of a thing. And the reason is just because I think it's so amazing that people seem to do this on January. But most businesses, like for example, I was consulting before this, and my consulting business, I've stopped most of it if I can help it. Sometimes people pay me too much to stop, but planning season for 2013 is in the last quarter of 2012, and if you're really clever, you kind of get them kind of on the way out of the second quarter. So you get them like right around September timeframe and say, hey, I know that you're getting ready to go into planning. Here's my contribution to help you. But we don't do that with our own personal goals. For some reason, it's not until somewhat into the hangover on New Year's Day we go, oh, all right, well, I got to lose 30 pounds. I didn't make enough money. Boy, I'm pretty stupid. And like we say all this crap to ourselves too, all this huge negativeness comes out of our body, and sort of this reflection that happened right between Christmas and New Year's, in most people's calendar. It's this huge negative time. And so I guess a lot of what I'm working on helping people understand is, what do you do with all that? And what do you do to actually really put down, goals of value? And then what do you do to sustain them? Because what's amazing about people's goals, there's all this stuff about how to make a smart goal. But first off, goals aren't even the highest level of this. A vision is the high level. You have to have some kind of a vision of yourself and a vision of where you're heading. And then goals are a story, along the way. So I always say that a vision is a story told out of goals. And I think that's kind of the way that I help people figure it out. And I've mostly done this, sort of internal and just a little tiny bit on my blog every year. So this is the first year I'm going to really try to help people in a somewhat bigger way, just because I think, I just don't want as many people to have so much woe and issue with it.
Well, your blog last year is what got me started doing it, and it really, you have no idea what it did for my business this year, because without the goals that you sort of walked us through setting up on your blog, I wouldn't have been able to sort of assess where I am and come up with what I wanted to do, and I've actually grown my business because of that goals post. So, but that being said, there was one question that's kind of like not related that I really wanted to talk to you about, because you but you've discussed depression more than once on your blog, and you've made it clear that it's something that you struggle with, and I think we all struggle with it as entrepreneurs and as online businesses, because I think we tend to isolate ourselves, and sometimes you just kind of have to force yourself to do things that you don't want to do. And in one of your newsletters that I got on a Sunday morning, you were like, I really didn't feel like doing this, but here I am doing it anyway. How do you get to that point where you just, okay, I'm going to type something, because even if I don't, but you put it out there anyway. You get me? It's like you weren't really sure that you wanted to be there doing it, but you did it. So what gets Chris Brogan to that point from blah to I'm going to do this?
First off, so everyone has sort of this experience of being down in the dumps. I have clinical depression, which means somewhat chemically, my body says to me, whoosh, here's this horrible stuff, no matter what. Like, everything could be going great. The same things that make everyone depressed make me depressed, but sometimes I'll be depressed on a perfectly sunny day where I'm the happiest I've ever been, and that's the slight differentiation. But that said, so the treatment is the same, or whatever you have to do is the same. And one of the things that, there's a lot of things you need to do to handle depression. And one of them is you've got to learn a lot about something I call untangling, which is you have to learn not to live off of anyone else's script, no matter who, especially your loved ones. The thing is, we tend to think like, okay, I'm going to just keep my family here, and then outside of the walls, I know not to worry about what these people are saying. Now, of course, this is baloney. We all totally worry about what other people say, so let's pretend that that isn't even true, because it isn't. But also we think that this family is here to protect us and save us, but nobody is there to protect you and save you. And I don't say that mean, I don't say it nihilistically, but the person who loves you the most in your life, in your perception, unless they're a dog or a cat, the person who loves you the most in your life will also harm you unintentionally quite often, because they only have their external view of their script for you. And so they have the opportunity to be disappointed. They have their own biography going on. Remember that we're all the hero in our own story. So, on the day when, the person who warms your bed isn't so thrilled with you, and you're like, I'm going to have a peppy day. Well, then it doesn't matter, how much they love you. Maybe they're just mad. Maybe you, left the toilet lid up, whatever. Yeah. So that's the whole kind of underside of it. You have to take care of tangles. You have to start to really trust your inside self. You have to eliminate a passion for praise or criticism. Neither one is helpful to you. A lot of times people are like, well, I just never listen to the critics. But if you listen to who praises you, it's just this, it's the same problem, a different color. Now, the real question you asked me, Tanya, was how do you get from I don't feel like doing this today. I'm just not even into it. Which, as a creative, I mean, most of my business is creative. I'm more a freelancer than an entrepreneur because most of my business is like, shark swimming. If I'm not doing it, the shark dies,
Right.
So the answer is I have this thing about discipline and practice now. And the more I discipline myself, the more I practice, the more I just do it no matter what, no matter the mood. Then I have this sort of saying that's come out of that saying, exercise your discipline until your passion shows up. Like you have to wait for the passion. You might as well just get started. And when the passion shows up, you can get it going.
That's really great. Exercise your discipline until the passion shows up. Huh? I'll have to remember that because I think a lot of, I know what you said, that you have clinical depression and a lot of people just have like the blahs. I don't personally know what, my aspect would be because sometimes, anyway, just being tied up in the house and in the four walls with the family and in the computer. And I think a lot of people just sort of resonate with that. And I notice when you do your post that you get a lot of, feedback, a lot of people, feeling that thing. And so you handle it like a pro, obviously, because that's what you are. and I mean, being able to cut off from the criticism and cut off from the praise in order to be able to move forward, regardless of what anybody has to say, is, I think, something that we all have to master. And you're doing an excellent job of teaching me today.
Well, you're kind. It only took me 42 years to figure it out. Don't worry. I'm so fast at this crap. I mean, a good lot of my life. I mean, the biggest, hugest flaw in my life was that I was a people pleaser, far beyond what should be okay in humanity. And, and by the way, I have to come backwards a little and say that, when I was distinguishing the difference between clinical depression, I wasn't like, well, you don't even know what it's like.
I know.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying,
But it's right, though, because there is a line there that even if we are both two different types of depression, there is a place where, fitness can help, and there's a place where medication has to step in. So I don't, I wasn't necessarily implying that, but, and while I'm thinking about it, Fiorella is your other half. Yes. Mm-hmm. Does she keep you moving and getting that body in shape while you're trying to do your freelancing, as you call it?
Well, so it's a funny thing because I know so many people who allow their body to go to the wayside, and I'm certainly in the same boat. I mean, we sit still a lot. I mean, my job is to type more than anything else, and it turns out you can't really run and type. I've tried. And Dragon, naturally speaking, doesn't want to type, oh God, as I'm running. It's not helpful. Or
you won't get a lot of documents out of that. I know Sean Platt is trying a new thing with his Dragon, naturally speaking, that he has got. He's going to be running and trying dictating a book. So maybe he's a better runner than I am. That might come out all right for him. But yeah, typing and sitting still. But so Fiorella keeps you moving. And do you have a problem getting that in every day, or you get up and you're ready to do it and it's all good?
So Jack is a really great inspiration, and I'm terrible at I'm a very morning person, so I'm that person that lots of people hate because I'm like, I'm awake, let's do something, so it's terrible. And so I don't, where I am right now in my journey is that I'm guaranteeing myself, a very brisk walk and maybe 2 very brisk walks a day. And when I say brisk, I just mean that a lot of people are out walking, and if you can read a magazine and walk, it's just not the same thing. So I'm also working on yoga because Jacqueline does a lot of yoga stuff. She's just completing her 500-hour teacher training after she already did a 200-hour. So to me, that's a 700-hour, but evidently I don't do math. And, so I went away with her for a week to Esalen out on the California there at the Big Sur area and did yoga for a week with her guy, Rolf Gates, who's this former special forces guy turned yoga. Wow. And holy cow, I say that because as spiritual a dude as he is, he's also no BS. And he's also I'm going to push you and you're going to break. And, that's not your typical yoga. I also work out with Diamond Dallas Page, who's a former pro wrestler. And he's got this.
I was going to say, that name sounds familiar. Diamond Dallas Page is a fitness instructor now?
He is. He's got the diamond cutter still, but he's a yoga guy. He started calling it. It started out as YRG, yoga for regular guys, and now it's just DDP yoga. And he does basically, standard yoga stuff. But I mean, all his names of all his poses are really kind of fun. And so I'm doing some yoga. I'm getting back towards kettlebells, and the thing I really want to get back towards once I get a lot more fit is CrossFit. But on the way to there, one of my 3-book diet books is You Are Your Own Gym by this dude, Mark Lauren. So I think that entrepreneurs and freelancers do a great job of ruining their bodies, but as your body controls things, including your ability to focus on things, your ability to stay not depressed, and to move your brain around from place to place, it's just important that I do better work with my body.
Do you have any future plans? You're going to finish that 3-book diet with that one, so you will be, that's pretty much weight training, or body weight training rather, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be getting into that for your diet, and we'll expect to see buff Chris Brogan by the end of 2013.
In 2004, end of 2003 through 2004, I went on a fitness thing, and I had this whole experience going on. And the more, I got all the way down to, I lost like 65 pounds, and I ran a trail marathon, and it's still, I didn't ever especially look buff. I just, fit different pants.
Yeah, I think everybody's body is different, and everybody approaches or gets different fitness results. You can all do the same thing, and we'll never look all the same as the people on the covers. But I really appreciate your time. And since you flashed the book, I'm flashing a book too. It's yours. Everybody get it for the 3-book diet. Hook up with Chris Brogan for the 2013 year and get your business in shape. Chris, I really appreciate your time, and I'm going to let you get back to work.
Tanya, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. I'm glad to have been part of your show today.
I appreciate it. We'll talk soon. Take care.